All right. So now that you know how to actually move things around in the scene and throw some materials on there, and hopefully you've taken some time to build your level out more than I have. I want to actually start making something I can interact with. And again, I'm building a third-person platformer as my kind of simple first game here. So I'm always thinking in terms of like Mario, because I think everybody's familiar with Mario. And Mario is always collecting items, in particular coins, it seems like, right? There's always coins that Mario finds. So I'm going to go ahead and make a coin that my character can grab, which I can use these coins as like, a trail of breadcrumbs or something to make whoever's playing the game go in a particular direction. So if I find that people playing the game just don't seem to know where to go right off the start, I could maybe make a trail of coins that kind of leads them where I want them to go. Or maybe I could lead them astray and lead them into danger, or lead them to a secret room that has even more coins or something. And then later they could use those coins to like upgrade their character or get power-ups or something, or get an extra life, right? Just like Mario. So in order to actually make our own collectible, I need to create a blueprint actor. Okay, so I'm going to do Control Space to bring up my content browser here. And I just, over on the side here, I just clicked on content. You might still be in the character or whatever you were last working on or looking at. Maybe you went back to the materials or something. But I'm just going to click on content. And in here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say new folder. And I do this just for organization. It's purely for me. I like to have a folder that I call my blueprints. My blueprints. Okay, I'm going to double click that to open it up. And now I'm within that folder. And that, like I said, that first blueprint I want to make is going to be the coin. So I'm going to right click on where it says blueprint class. It'll bring up a thing here that says, hey, pick your parent class. We can read through these really quick. There's actor. I already said that's what we wanted to use. So an actor is an object that can be placed or spawned in the world. Yep, that sounds just like a coin or some sort of collectible, right? A pawn is an actor that can be possessed and receive input from a controller. Okay, interesting. That kind of sounds like a character, right? But then I read below that and it says there's a character class. Okay, what's the difference here? A character is a type of pawn that already includes the ability to walk around. So it has that character movement component that we were looking at previously. Okay, then you have player controller, game mode base, actor components, all kinds of stuff. In fact, if I click on this drop down, you'll see that there's quite a lot that I can do. And some of these even have their own drop downs that have even more stuff within them, right? So there's a lot of different parent classes that we could use. But I'm going to go ahead and just stick with actor for now. I just need to place or spawn these coins in the world. I'll click actor, and I'm going to call this, I guess I'll stick with the conventions that are here by default. I'll do BP for blueprint, and then underscore coin. Okay, when I hit enter, there it is. I know it's an actor because it has this ball as its icon, I guess. And I can also see that I need to save it because it has that little asterisk there. So this is where I would do that save all probably, and then say save selected. And now it's saved. That's perfect. And if I double click it now, it'll open up the blueprint editor, which, hey, that didn't take long that time. Very interesting. Okay, and again, this should look pretty familiar. It's got the viewport, it's got the construction graph, the event graph here, all that stuff. The only kind of weird thing for me is that it's got this, it's really actually like a billboard. It's kind of just a sprite, a 2D sprite. And everywhere I look at it, it's kind of rotating to face me. It's like the enemies in like the old Doom game and stuff, or the trees in Super Mario 64 outside the castle. It's this flat image that's always facing me. And it's really annoying, in my opinion. So I'm going to show you kind of an optional step to get rid of this. You don't have to do this, but I always do this. So this is linked to the default scene root here in the components. So what I'm going to do is go up to add, and I'm going to search for scene. And it brings up a few things. I want the bottom one here that just says scene. Okay, S-C-E-N-E. I'm going to click on that. It's asking me for a name. I'm just going to hit enter. I think scene is a fine name for my scene. And then I can replace the default scene root with my new scene by just dragging and dropping scene right on top of default scene root. So when I drag and drop, you can see it says cannot attach to self, but as soon as my cursor goes right on top of default scene root, it changes to a check mark that says, yeah, go ahead and drop here to make it the new root. So I'll do that. It removes the other root, and now I no longer have that little sprite, that billboard that's always there. So again, kind of a personal preference. I like to do that. You don't have to do that, but I find it really nice. Okay, so I'm going to start making this look like a coin. So to me, if I look at a coin, which I don't have any loose change on my desk here, but a coin is kind of just a cylinder that's really, really thin, right? So if I go add, I can search for cylinder and drop in a cylinder. It's asking for a name. I might actually rename this to coin. Okay. And again, in this viewport, I can move the camera around the exact same way. I'm getting a little bit of screen tearing. I hope it's showing up okay in the recording. And I can click on it and move it up a little bit if I wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and scale it. If after you added it, and then you were trying to, let's see, if I click on it and do my move tool, if after you added it and you were trying to go to your scale tool, like here I am hitting R on the keyboard and it's not changing, that's because I'm currently in my components list. You can see that little component tab is actually highlighted, right? So all I have to do if I have something clicked on or selected that I want to move and rotate, but it's not letting me change from my move tool, I just have to click somewhere in my viewport. I can even click on the empty space around the object and it won't deselect it. And it'll just make my viewport the active tab, the active window I'm in. And now if I hit R for scale, I can go ahead and do that. So that sometimes trips up people that are new to Unreal. So I thought I'd show that. But I'm just going to go ahead and scale this until it is kind of thin. I don't know. The snapping, again, is making it so it's kind of too thick here. But my other option is paper thin, which I don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this blue right here, where it's enabling the scale grid, right? Snapping to the scale grid. I'm just going to click on that. And now I can free scale it. So it's something more like a coin. So maybe that feels okay to me. And then sometimes I like having that on and the movement one. So I'll usually keep those on unless I want them off. But you could leave them off if you don't want them, or you could always change the number to something that fits your needs a little bit better, right? But I find that just working like this is totally fine for me, especially right now. Then I'll go ahead and just rotate this. It is snapping 10 degrees, which is nice. So I can just rotate it right to 90. And then right now, if I'm looking around at this, you can see that that floor grid is running right down the middle of the coin, which means if I go ahead and compile and save this, if I jump back into my level and drag out a coin, you can see it's clipping through the ground, right? And I could just drag out the coin and then move it up, right? But why not just move it up in my blueprint here? So I'm going to go ahead and move it above the floor a little ways. Compile and save that. And if I look back in my level, now it's moved above the floor, right? So that's really nice. And any of them that I drag out now will be above the floor. So that's great. Okay, I'll go ahead and delete that one. I don't need it quite yet, but we will be testing it out soon. Okay, it doesn't look much like a coin. I mean, it kind of has the shape now, and it's, you know, it's getting there, but probably I need to change its material, right? And if I remember, if I want to change anything about what I've added from the left, I can always look at the details on the right. And in here, I have a spot called materials, and it's using that basic shape material. I'm going to go ahead and search for gold because I have the starter content. And sure enough, I have a gold material I can put on it. I will admit it's not the best gold material. It's kind of grungy, kind of, I don't know, it almost looks like stone or concrete to me that's been painted gold. It doesn't really look gold to me, but it'll work for what I'm doing here. That's totally fine. Okay, and then any Mario game I've played, especially recently, the coins move in some way, right? And yeah, sometimes they bounce, they have like physics and stuff, and that's totally fine. But for now, I really want to get these things spinning like most of the coins in Mario do. So I'm going to go up to Add Component again. And I'm going to search for Rotating Movement. Rotating Movement. I'll click that. It's going to ask for a name. I'm just going to hit Enter because I think Rotating Movement is totally fine. Okay. And now if I hit play in here, oh, it's not rotating. So in order to see this actually rotating, I need to hit Simulate. And now I can see it rotating. Okay, and by default, it's spinning in the right direction, I think. I think that looks pretty good. The speed seems pretty good. But if I wanted to change any of that stuff, again, I can click on the component that I've added on the left, and then go over to the right and look for, here's rotation rate. If I wanted it to spin half as fast, I could type in 90 there and then hit Simulate. Now it's a bit slower. If I wanted it to be double what it was, I could do 360 and now Simulate, and now it's really fast. If I wanted it to spin in a different direction, I don't know, let's try this. Here we go, it's spinning, and because I've moved it off of its center point, it's spinning around the middle here, right? That's kind of interesting. But I think it was fine how it was, so I'm just going to go ahead, type in 180 there for that value, and hit Simulate again, and that looks fine. Again, I could, if I wanted it to go the other direction, I could make it negative 180. And now it's going in the opposite direction. So whatever looks good to you, whatever speed you want, I'm going to go with 180. And then compile and save that. And actually, there's one last thing I want to add to this. And if we think about it, any like Mario game, or really any game that we've played where you're supposed to be collecting coins or power-ups, or even like stars or moons at the end of Mario levels, right? If I want to collect something like this, a star, a moon, a coin, a power-up, something that's going to help the player, when I collect it, I usually just have to get close enough to the object, right? I don't have to physically touch the actual cylinder. I can usually just get pretty close around it, right? And you might be going, oh yeah, there's a hitbox or a collision box, right? You might have experiences playing like Call of Duty or something, and you can clearly see the bullet trail go past your character, but it hit the collision box, right? It hit the hitbox, so it counted as a hit and you took damage. And you're like, oh man, these hitboxes need to be fixed, right? So I actually want to add a hitbox or a collision box around this coin to make it easier to collect, okay? So again, I'm gonna go to my left because I want to add a component. I'll click on Add right underneath Component there. And I'm going to look for COL for collision, okay? COL for collision. And I have some different shapes I could use, a sphere, a capsule, that's all fine. I will say spheres and capsules, because they're rounded, they're a little bit more expensive, so I usually don't use those as much unless I'm doing like a character, then I might do a capsule, right? But using a box for this is going to be totally fine. I'll drop in my box. It wants me to name it. Box is okay. I might actually call it box collision. Geez, I can't seem to type properly tonight, but that's okay. Box collision. Okay, and then you might be noticing this here, the way it's adding these components. You can see they're kind of underneath, and some of them are underneath and indented. You might be familiar with this. This is like the hierarchy, right? Some things are the child of another thing. Like right here, the scene is the parent class. And then the coin is the child of the scene, and the box collision is the child of the coin. And what that means is the child can move around freely wherever it wants to go, within reason, of course, right? And then as soon as the parent says, okay, child, we need to move, it'll move with the parent, right? So that means if I move this box collision back to the origin here, I move it up so it's kind of centered with the coin, and then scale it until it's a little bit larger than the coin in every direction. So maybe a little bit taller, a little bit wider. Because again, this is something I want the character to collect. So I want it to be pretty easy for them to collect it. I want it to feel pretty good. Like, they don't have to be super precise. I mean, obviously, if it was way too big, then that wouldn't feel very good. It would be really weird. But something like this should be okay. That doesn't seem too bad. I can always test it out, though. Okay, and because it's the child of the coin and has that rotating movement, when I hit simulate, it's going to rotate with it, which is awesome. That's exactly what I want. Okay, so I'm going to compile and save that. And now I'm going to drop one into my scene somewhere where my character can go interact with it. And I'll go try to collect it. So maybe I'll make this little trail here that tells me go up these platforms, right? These ramps. And again, if I want to duplicate this quickly, I can just hold down Alt and move that original one, and it'll move a copy. I can kind of set it in place here. Then if I want to do another one, hold down Alt and move it, and it'll move a copy. I'll kind of move it to the top of this ramp, maybe. And then hold down Alt, move another copy. And I'm just, like I said, trying to think of it as a designer here. So I'm trying to make kind of a trail for my player to follow so they know they're going in the right direction. Oop, I moved that one too far. Although that could be kind of a fun thing. They have to jump out there, get it, and then use their double jump to get back. That could be kind of fun. Okay, and then this one I could say, hey, you'll have to jump to get this one. And then you'll have to jump again to get that one, and then maybe have another one on the platform. And then whatever happens after that, I can add another floor or something and build more and more to that level, right? If I have those, I'm going to hit play. They're spinning. Wow, there's a lot of coins to go collect. So I'm going to go ahead and collect one. Uh-oh. I'm just running into it, right? Maybe I'll try, I am kind of building a Mario-inspired simple game, so maybe I'll try jumping on it. Oh. I can take it for a spin, haha. The pioneers used to ride these babies for miles. Okay, so even though I have that collision box and everything, I have nothing in the blueprint that's telling Unreal, hey, when I collide with that, go ahead and collect the coin, right? That's what I'm going to do now. And since I have these coins in the world, I can always right-click and say Edit Coin. That's also Control-E. Or you could also click on one and then go to Edit Coin in the world outliner here. However you want to do it. Or you could even go look for it in the blueprint or in the content drawer and double-click it there. But I usually just right-click and say Edit. It brings me right back to it, which is great. So I have everything that I need in order to make this collectible. But what I need to do is actually add some events here to make it collectible, to make it so when I collide with it, I can collect it. So if I go to the event graph, I have these things that Unreal thinks I might want to use. I have an event begin play. And a little note about that is not only is this when I hit the play button and begin playing the game, it's also if something spawns into the game after I have started playing it. It's also when this particular actor begins playing, right? So if I had like a boss enemy later in the game and it only spawned after I had beat every other enemy in the game, as soon as it spawns, I could have it like play a taunting animation or something. And even though I could be playing the game for 2 hours to that point, once it spawns, it's going to go, okay, begin play, because I just started playing the game, this particular actor, and I could have it do like a taunting animation or something if it was like a end game boss, right? So this event begin play is when the actor begins playing, or if it's in there at the start when the level begins playing, right? So just a little note on that. The next one is actor begin overlap. Okay, that sounds like something I might want when I overlap with the collision box. And then this last one is event tick. This is how you do like looping or repeating things in Unreal with blueprints. So a tick is actually every time the screen updates, which actually between videos here, between recordings, I had to go into my NVIDIA settings and limit my frame rates. My frame rate because number one, I want to have a little bit more control over the tick if I use it, and number two, it was just going crazy. I could hear the fan spinning up on my GPU and stuff, which is fine. It was keeping pretty cool, but there's no reason for it to be spinning up that much when I'm just doing a simple game. So I limited it to like 60 frames for now, just to make sure that hopefully the recording looks a little bit better. Hopefully, I don't know. But because I limited my frames, if this game is playing at 60 frames a second, this tick is actually updating. This tick is running 60 times every second. Or if you have a higher frame rate, if you're running Unreal or your game at 300 frames per second, this event tick will run 300 times every second. Okay? You can do stuff with delta seconds to try to control that more, or you can do a frame limiter to try to control that more as well, like I've done. Anything like that, but that's what a tick is. It's going to be doing it every single time the thing updates, every time your screen updates, okay? So just keep that in mind, but the one we really want is this event actor begin overlap, okay? And I need to tell it that when something overlaps with this, I need to say, hey, double check that it's actually my character that's overlapping with it, okay? And I do have this thing that's other actor, and if I drag out from the blue circle there, other actor, and search for cast, I'll move my mouse here, cast to third person character. And again, if you're in a different template, like the first person, yours will say first person character. So you want to type in cast to first person character. So whatever template you're in, cast to blankety blank character, right? So for me, it's third person character. That brings up a couple of things. There's third person game mode because I didn't finish typing in character. I just want the one that's cast to third person character, okay? So I'll click on that. And even though I dragged out from the blue circle, you'll notice it also connected my execute pin, which is kind of nice. And I'll show you, even though I just did that shortcut for you, I'll show you what happens if I just drag from the execute pin and do the same thing. Cast to third person character. I then have to actually connect other actor, and sometimes I'll forget to do that. And so when I compile, it will give me an error, and I'll go, oh yeah. So I usually just try and get in the habit of dragging out from the blue pin, but sometimes I'll forget. Now that's connected, I can compile again, and there's the error. And I did something kind of quick there. If you ever want to disconnect any of these pins but keep the node, you can hold down Alt and then click on the cord, and it'll get rid of it. So again, that's holding down Alt and then left clicking, and that'll get rid of the cord for you, okay? But here, basically, this is saying, okay, anytime something overlaps with my coin, with that collision box, it's going to check, hey, is that other actor my third-person character? If so, I can do a cast failed if not, and sometimes it works kind of how I want, and sometimes not. Sometimes I'll actually do like a sequence to make it so I can say, hey, was it the enemy that collected it? Was it player 1 that collected it? Was it player 2? Was it something else, right? But for now, I only have one character, so I don't have to worry about cast failed or doing a sequence of things where I have different branches coming off. For now, I'm good with just pulling out from this one that doesn't have a label. This is if the cast was successful. So if, in fact, it was my third-person character that overlapped with the coin, I then want it to do some stuff, right? And right now, I don't really have like a score variable or anything set up. I just want to make it look like the coin is actually being collected. So the easiest way to do that for now is to drag out, and I'm going to add in a destroy actor node. Destroy actor. Okay? And here it has a target. I could plug in a target. I don't want to drag as my character into target, because that means when I collect the coin, it's actually going to delete my character from the game. I don't want to do that. So if I leave that disconnected and compile it, I don't get an error because the default target is the self. So that means this coin, when the character overlaps with the collision box, is going to delete itself from my level, which means it'll look like I'm collecting it, right? So that's all I need right there to make it so I can collect my coin. Begin overlap, cast to my character, make sure I get that double connection there, and then drag off and do a destroy actor and make sure the target is self because I am on the coin so it can destroy itself, okay? I'm gonna go test that out. Now when I bump into the coin, it's like I'm collecting it. Again, it's not really doing anything for me. It's not giving me like a currency. It's not giving me a score yet, but that's going to be the next thing we'll do. But for some reason, when we leave things for the player to collect, the player seems to follow them, right? So you can use that to your advantage as a designer, right? And that's kind of nice. Okay, so there's my cool little coins. Really quick, if I wanted to actually give myself like a score, I'd have to go find my character again. So I'm going to go to content, third person. Again, yours might say first person or something, whatever template you're in. Blueprints, and then open up the character blueprint. And in here, it really doesn't matter. I'll go to the viewport so you know which one I'm in here. I need to add a variable, right? And again, if I want to add something to whatever I'm working on, I do that usually almost every time from the left side of the screen, right? And down here, there is variables. And on that little tab here that says variables, there is a plus button over here that when I hover over, it says variable, or in other words, add a variable, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Here's my new var_0. I'm going to go ahead and call it score, because when I collect coins, I want to update my score. I'll hit enter for the name there after typing in score. It's telling me it's a Boolean, and there's a few ways I can change this. I could click on Boolean here and change it here. Or if I had the variable selected, I could go over to my details on the right and change it here as well. And for now, I'm totally fine with it being an integer. You could maybe get away with doing a float, which is just a decimal number. So an integer is a whole number as well as negatives. But it can't have, like, you can't have a score of 5.708, right? But with a float, you could have a score of 5.67, right? But I'm fine with doing an integer. That's totally fine. If I needed to convert it to a float later, I could. Using blueprints, it's totally fine. So I'm going to make it an integer. And then let's say, I don't know, maybe their score like starts at 100 for some reason, and then as I'm playing the game, if I'm not collecting coins, my score like gradually goes down, and if it hits 0, I lose. So if I wanted to set its default value, again, I can look at the variable, I can have it selected, and then in the details, I can come in here and look for default value. There it is. And in order to change it, it says, hey, please compile the blueprint to change the default value. Okay, I'll go ahead and compile it. And there we go. Now I see my default value for my score is 0. And if I wanted to change it to something, I could. And then after I change it, I have to compile it again. But for now, I just want this to be kind of regular. I haven't collected any coins yet, which means I have a score of 0. And then I'll compile and save that. Okay? And then in order to see this just on the screen for now, just very quickly, I can go back to my coin and go to the event graph. And before I destroy it, since I'm destroying the self, because I'm destroying the coin, I want to have everything that I'm going to do before this destroyed, because if I do it afterwards, the coin's no longer there, which means it's not going to do anything afterwards. But like I could have something else plugged into target, which means it would destroy something else, and then I could have the coin continue to do stuff, right? But because I'm deleting the coin, I don't want to have anything after this destroy, right? So I want to have some stuff between here. So what I'm going to do, and maybe I can really try to dress this up a little bit. I don't know why you'd want to do this. It might get really annoying, but maybe when I collect it, maybe I can like have it play a sound at that location, right? And I can feed in a particular location, but let's select an asset here. They have explosion. We'll go with explosion 2. Why not? And then it needs a location. Right now, it's just going to play it at the origin. That could work, but I could also get my character's location, which is going to be my location whenever I collect a coin, right? So it's going to be a different location every time I bump into a coin. So I can drag from as blankety blank character and look for get actor location. Sure enough, I have a yellow pin here that matches the yellow pin there. That's my return value, so I can hook that up. So now every time I collect a coin, it's going to play that explosion. If you wanted to, you could go online or make your own sounds and import them to Unreal. I believe Unreal takes WAV or WAV files, WAV, right? And then you could import your own sounds and use that. So if you wanted to have like the Mario coin collect sound or something, you could do that. And then after that, let's also do a spawn. Again, I'll get rid of my mouse cursor there. Spawn emitter at location, because I already have the location, right? And I mean, this is my character location, so maybe I don't want to do that one for this one. So I could always just right click and say get actor location, and it would get the coins location. So maybe that's actually better for this one, because the target is now self. Okay, in the emitter template, there should be an explosion by default. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And then I need a little bit more room before I destroy it to do this last little thing. Actually, I'm going to shift all of this down. This is going to get a little bit messy, but that's okay. So after my cast, if I wanted to update my score, I need to first get my score, add a little bit to it, and then set my score to that new number. So if you've ever done computer programming before, you're probably familiar with like getting a variable and then setting that variable. Like if it is score, you're going to say score equals score plus 10, right? And what that's going to do is it's going to say, make my score equal to whatever my current score is plus 10. And then the next time you do it, it's going to say, okay, it's 10. Now it's going to say add 10 to 10, so it's going to be 20. Then the next time you do it, it's going to be 20, add 10 to 30, right? So we have to do something kind of similar in Unreal, where I can drag from my character here, this blue pin, and I can say get score. And because I saved it, if it doesn't come up here, you might want to jump back to your character and just hit compile and save really quick, and then try it again. So if it didn't come up, that's probably why. I'll do get score. There it is. I can drag out from score and just do a plus for integer. Oh, I guess it doesn't call it integer plus integer anymore. It just calls it addition. Very cool. It used to call it integer plus integer, but it's the same thing. So right here, it's going to add A to B. So I'm going to say, let's make it worth 10 points. And then from my cast here, I can drag out here and say set score. So whatever my score currently is, I want to set it to whatever it was plus 10. I'm going to go ahead and return that value here. And then my set score needs a target. And right now it says self, which is the coin, which is not right. That's not where that variable is. So I need to just drag another blue pin, another blue cord here, straight to target. So I kind of have a lot going on here. I have it getting the location for my play sound, as well as getting and setting my score. But now if I compile that, I have no errors, okay? And that's pretty good. Maybe I'll go ahead and move these things around just to make it read a little bit nicer, maybe. I'll try to get everything to fit on one screen if I can. In fact, there's one last thing I want to do here that I almost forgot. After my set, I'm going to drag out and do print string. And what that's going to do is it's going to send a fax over to the nearest printer and print out a document. Just kidding. It's not going to do that at all. It's actually just going to put it on the screen. And I can actually connect my return value on my set here, even though it's a different color. I can connect it to in string here. And when I hover my mouse over, it says, hey, do you want to convert integer to string? And I say, heck yeah, I do. So I let go of the mouse and it adds that conversion for me. So now when I collect the coin, I can actually see my score updating, which is really nice. Okay, and I'm going to try and get all this to fit on one screen so you can kind of see what I've done for the coin. I have my begin play, casting to my character, getting my score. This one's called get score. This one's set score. This one was add. And then I'm printing the string. This was the conversion node that was added automatically, getting my actor location so I know where to play that sound at. Then I did another get actor location where the target is self for the emitter, and then I'm destroying the actor. So let's see if I can get all that to kind of fit on one screen here, so you can see what I've done. So that way you can pause it here and make sure yours looks like mine. I'll compile and save it. I have no errors. If you compile it and you have errors, just double check you have all these blue connections coming from the character that you need, as well as anything else that might require a target. Just make sure it looks just like mine and hit compile again, okay? You can go ahead and pause that and make sure yours looks like mine. But for me, I'm gonna go ahead and start playing this, and this might be kind of crazy. Because I don't know how loud that noise is gonna be. Oh, not too crazy. I don't know, did you guys actually hear that? Maybe you're hearing it through my microphone. I guess I could just make sure it's actually gonna play on your end here. There we go, I'll switch the source for the recording. There you go. But you can see as I'm collecting it, right here, kind of where it says click for mouse control, right here it's actually printing onto the screen what my score is. So now I'm at 60, 70, 80, oop, and I missed the jump, 90, it would have been 100, right? Oh my gosh, I'm horrible at my own game. Try one more time. I gotta get 100 points, right? There we go. Okay, so there we go, cool. I have a coin that I can actually collect, and it's changing, altering, setting a variable, and maybe later I could have that variable do something else, where if I have 100 points, it spawns an enemy, or it gives me a health boost, or it takes me to level 2 or something, right? I could cast to my character again, get that variable and have it do something else, right? So really cool. Once you kind of get the hang of casting to, creating variables, changing variables, and checking on those variables, really that's all blueprinting is. Obviously it's going to get more complicated. That's a very simple look at what we're doing. But if you can kind of get used to that process, you'll notice that blueprinting kind of is a little bit repetitive, right? You seem to always be casting to something, getting that variable, checking some sort of condition with that variable maybe, and then having it do something else after that. So pretty neat stuff.